Oh yeah, finally an idea that I can get behind. Now I know, this is going to be one of those videos that probably pisses off both fan bases that'll watch it, and that always means to me that the idea is worth talking about. If no one team is feeling like they're getting the best end of the deal, then you know that there's reason to dive into it. So today we're going over to an article published on foreverblueshirts.com. This was written and posted by Tom Castro from yesterday, December 26th, and the title is this: Why the New York Rangers Desperately Need to Reacquire JT Miller, even if a trade is a long shot. Oh yeah, baby. We are talking about Miller and the New York Rangers once again. Now, here's the thing with JT, and I'll just open up this entire video by going on this little diatribe. I feel like a lot of the Miller discourse and a lot of the conversation surrounding whether or not Miller could get traded, it kinda calmed down during the Canucks' last game before the regular break. You see, before the San Jose game, everybody was talking about whether or not Miller could get traded, or if he's in a spot where he's really hurting the team, and we even spoke about it in the post-game video for the Canucks and Ottawa game, which was one game before the San Jose game. But after that game, I mean, everybody was talking about JT Miller and his lack of back-checking, his lazy defensive play, how he's reverted back to the Bruce Boudreau version of JT, which was not really all too useful, and sure, he would still get points, but he would definitely bring a lot of negative value to the team as well. But all those conversations kind of calmed down once the San Jose game happened, because JT admittedly looked pretty good. He finally played on the power play with Elias Pettersson. He had scored a power play assist on Pettersson's power play goal, so obviously there was some good mojo being built up from that individual performance, and I think because of that one game, it kind of put a damper on a lot of the Canucks trade conversations from the fans. However, one game against the San Jose Sharks is just one game, and we'll see whether or not the next few games worth of Vancouver play and JT Miller play bring similar results. Will Miller continue to get points? Will Miller continue to disappoint? Will Miller go out there and backcheck? And will Miller make good reads with the puck again? Who really knows? But for now, the article on foreverblueshirts.com goes out there and brings up JT in the context of the New York Rangers acquiring him. Despite the juicy drama swirling around the Vancouver Canucks two-star centers, there's no indication at this point that the club is prepared to part ways with former Rangers first-rounder JT Miller. Even if the Canucks were looking to move on from the uber-talented 31-year-old, acquiring him might not be the best idea for any team, given the red flags surrounding Miller throughout his 13-year career. That doesn't change the fact that Miller's demeanor is exactly what the crashing Rangers need right now. What exactly is the article responding to? Well, let's go out there and talk about this. The allegedly fraught relationship between JT Miller and teammate Elias Pettersson is front-page news in a highly pressurized media environment in Vancouver. Beat reporters asked both players about the subject recently and received annoyed or angry or uncomfortable responses. Other league insiders picked up the story, and it became a primary topic on prominent podcasts to the point that it's perhaps the biggest narrative in the NHL at the moment. This is the telling as to how it generally goes. Miller's smoldering intensity to win and boldness in calling out teammates who aren't working hard and performing up to his standards of commitment, which has rubbed teammates in the wrong way throughout his journey from the Rangers to Tampa Bay to Vancouver, is clashing badly with the personality of Pettersson, who's also an intense competitor but can be sensitive and is more reserved in his interactions. The article then talks about how Elias Pettersson slowed down his point production when JT Miller came back, and whether or not Miller's presence and his revival on the team is a part of that. The article then dives into the New York Rangers. Of course, it's foreverblueshirts.com. They're a Rangers website. It says here that importing someone like Miller to the New York Rangers, who, by his own admission, wore out his welcome as a young player with the Rangers after they selected him in the 2011 draft, would be anything but a perfect solution. It might even make the situation in the Rangers' listless locker room worse. A team with Miller on the roster, however, does not lack for any of those elements that the Blue Shirts failed to exhibit at all this season. The Rangers are a flatlined, vanilla outfit that's predictably failing in a fast, physical sport marked by emotion, intensity, and investment in the group, unless fourth-liner Matt Rempe's eventual return from an 8-game suspension injects all that into this team in spades. There's little reason to believe that anyone currently on the roster is going to be able to change it. And so, the article writes here that JT Miller's demanding ways could change Rangers culture for the better. Whether or not you believe this idea, that JT Miller's intensity would push a lot of the guys in the Rangers locker room to be better and ultimately change the direction of this team in full, that's up to you. You can go out there and debate in the comment section below whether or not you agree or disagree. I think with Vancouver, it's just kind of difficult when you consider the top star on the team doesn't really have that same sort of mentality. Okay, no, maybe he does. The top star on the team is Quinn Hughes, but the top forward not named JT Miller on that team, Elias Pettersson, is more of a positive affirmations kind of guy. You know, you need him to settle into his comfort, and having a guy yelling at him and telling him that he's a baby in practice and all that, which was documented to have happened, by the way, that sort of tough love, we need more out of you, really intense, demanding style is not something that would bode well with Elias Pettersson in the minds of most Vancouver Canucks fans. And so, when you think about what dynamics exist within these two locker rooms, could Miller's presence be more appreciated and more valued in a system like New York's, where their entire team is collapsing and a lot of guys are not producing anymore? The article goes out there and debates the money. Miller is making $8 million a year till the end of 2030, so obviously you're going to have to think about some of the dollars going back. And the article even goes out there and says here, the Rangers would have to send significant assets the other way, perhaps starting with young forward Alexis Lafreniere and including some other players or draft picks. They would surely love to have underachieving center Mika Zibanejad as part of the deal, but Zibanejad has a full no-move clause, and the Canucks aren't likely to be interested in the apparently declining player who has 5 seasons left at $8.5 million after 24-25. Yeah. I'm gonna go out there and say that the Canucks probably have no reason to go out there after Zibby either, considering his decline and considering his dollar amount. He's more expensive than Miller, and he's worse, so why would they go out there and do it? The thing is, though, I really like the idea of Alexis Lafreniere coming back to Vancouver, and it's not because Lafreniere is like totally dismissed from all the criticism in New York right now, but Lafreniere is really young, signed on till the end of 2032 on a big contract that sees him making $7.4 million. That's a pretty reasonable deal for a guy who was doing as well as he was doing in his former years. I mean, last season he had 57 points in 82 games played. Laf this year is on pace for 51 points, so a slight decline, but it is interesting to note that he only has 1 point in his last 5 games, 4 points in his last 10, and if you go over to his game log, I mean, there are a bunch of games in here where he strongly has gotten off the scoreboard. Sure, 4 points in his last 10, but he's only got 1 point in his last 8 games, which becomes a lot worse when you just isolate that small sample. The Rangers have stunk, but Lafreniere only really started to stink production-wise too during this same process. He was producing earlier in the year, and he's still only 23 years old. He just turned 23. If the Canucks are going out there and trying to get a guy like Lafreniere in their system, it would kind of be a fever dream, realistically. I'm still of the belief that Lafreniere could be a 70-80 point player in his prime consistently, and maybe it's a little bit of a cop-out to say that because JT Miller is literally that already, but you gotta think about the ages too. Miller's 31. Lafreniere's 8 years younger. And when you consider the fact that Alexis Lafreniere is slowly getting better, Miller is getting worse, it makes sense to dig into it a little bit and also acknowledge that Miller's presence in the team might not be all too valuable when you consider the other top talents that exist here. Sure, Lafreniere is on a worse year point production pace compared to last season, but that really was tainted by the 1 point in 8 games he has had lately, while the Rangers have stunk. So my thought process is this: if it's Lafreniere plus for JT Miller, I really do think about it. And I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you think about it too? Is this an idea worth exploring? Yay or nay? Thoughts in the comment section below. The article is going to be linked in the description too. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.